Hello everyone, welcome to the first video on ZebraLearn YouTube after a very long time, and we are starting this series of all our experiences, all our author experiences that we will be sharing in an extremely actionable format. Remember, our focus has always been with every video that we make on ZebraLearn actionability, something that you can do with it, and that is where we start with the first video, which is building a brand in 2026. Lot of us, including me and Radhika, our experiences have been of all kinds. It takes a really long time to learn how do you build a brand, what are the basics of it, and getting the right mindset shifts. Because when you're starting a business, you will be focused on sales. Then at the same time, you'll be building few more channels. Then you will be building the brand. Then you will be spending building distribution and then going all in on the brand. So that is typically a journey that you will be taking at the same time. If you can get the right awareness, okay, what is the mindset shift, what is the next step, think of it as multiple layers going from class 1 to class 2 to class 3. That is how we have positioned this, that is how we have explored this based on our experiences and also all our authors put together whom we have consulted for this. So let's get started building a brand in 2026 using today's methods, and this is something that works across. You can change the tools, whether it be offline business, whether it be digital business, whether it be something that's more channel based, human channel based, agent based, all those channels. This is something that works across. So let's get started. First things first, what is a brand? What does it mean to be a brand? When you are building a brand, whether it's personal or your company's or someone else's also as an agency, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? You are trying to accomplish first to mind. First to mind typically means whenever I think of something, whenever I think of, let's say, fan, there is a certain company that comes to my mind. For example, let's say in India, Havels, for example. So Havels has positioned themselves, and it's quite likely that if Havels show up and when I'm going out to shop for a fan, I will engage with that brand. I will look at the product, the price, and all those. So that is effectively, in a very simple manner, in a very straightforward definition, this is what it means first to mind. If I'm thinking of books, ZebraLearn should be the first brand that should come to my mind. That is being a brand on the author side. And if I'm looking to read a book and ZebraLearn is the first brand that comes to my mind, that means on the reader side, that is the brand that exists. So long story short, being a brand typically will mean first to mind. If you can establish first to mind value, you are building that. If you can't, so be it. And then second thing to this is to the brand is the size of the brand. The size of the brand can matter. The size of the brand can vary. Now, what do we mean by size of the brand? Size of the brand means you can have first to mind value in front of 10,000 people. You could have first to mind value in front of 10 million people. You could have first to mind value in front of the whole world. So being large brands will typically mean having a very large brand and having first to mind value. Starbucks. What does it come to your mind when I say coffee? Starbucks, Costa Coffee. Let's say to the whole world, a billion people will first think of Starbucks. Maybe 10 million people will think of some smaller brand, maybe Costa Coffee. I don't know the relative sizes, but I'm taking an example. So both of them are brands. It's just that the size of the brand is different. The larger the size of your brand, the larger will be your potential to build the business, potential sales, and all those things. But this is the good news. The good news is you can start that brand in that small segment. You can start with a small brand, and with time you can grow it. Maybe it takes 15, 20, 30, 40 years for you to become a global brand, but tomorrow morning you can start becoming something for your community, for your neighborhood, for your society, for your office. So that is what essentially it means being a brand, and you will end up typically starting a smaller one and then becoming bigger and bigger and bigger as you keep on investing time, effort, money, creativity in different channels, different methods of building and growing your brand. This is what we mean by a brand. This is the definition. Everything else will at the end of it narrow down to this. Number two, how do you build it? You build it in this format. These are the three essential things that you need to be a brand or to build a brand. One, you need one message. You will not see brands saying 10 different things. Typically, it's open happiness by Coca-Cola, or coffee is equal to Starbucks, or fan is equal to Havels, for example, or Usha, all those different sorts of brands, or Atomberg, the new age one. So one message, only one message. For example, for ZebraLearn, we stick to one message, which is visual learning. Everything visual learning, it has to be ZebraLearn. So one message here. That is what it means from your perspective. What is that one message that you want the world to know you by? And it can be anything. And as simple as it is, better it is for you. We will talk about this in greater detail going forward. But one message, multiple impressions. This is where the business is. This is where your expenses are, efforts are, multiple impressions. You have to tell people the same thing over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, so many times that it starts getting, as a manager, you might start thinking, how many times will I tell the same thing? But that is what it means. You might have to, how many times have you seen a Starbucks store? Or I'm taking extreme examples. Let's say, how many times have you seen or noticed, let's say, Bajaj fans? Hundreds of times, right? But particularly in India. So that multiple impressions, that is what you have to hit it again and again and again, and only then do you establish first to mind. Meaning there is only one brand with that message which can be first to mind. Meaning when I think of, let's say, something, what's the first to mind value? That is the only brand that has been able to achieve that for that particular message. And you have to do it more than almost all your competitors. You can do it in different target audiences though. But for one person, let's say for me, I have a cafe called Unwind that's just upstairs of our office, and I love it. For me, coffee is unwind. Coffee is not Starbucks, coffee is not maybe Miraki in Surat, coffee is not Subco, coffee is not Third Wave Coffee, coffee is unwind for me. But that's a Surat based brand, maybe for it'll be what it is for me, maybe for 50,000 people. For a very large, let's say 50 million people, Starbucks will be the go-to brand. So in that sense, the TG can be different, but you have to do this multiple impressions to the same target audience. I see Unwind every single day, the first thing in my lift, because they have a logo there. And same is going to happen with almost all other brands that I know of. For example, when we shoot, there is this brand Godox. Every single day we see it. Digitech, we see it every single day. So it is establishing first to mind value for me. Third, rememberability. If you are just showing up and telling something multiple times, but you are not rememberable, you're telling it in a very boring manner, you will typically have a very difficult time establishing first to mind value. How many of you remember weird pitches that have appeared on Shark Tank? A lot of you will. Why? Because these guys were rememberable. Maybe the brands that have become bigger, they have had more impressions with you, but these guys are more rememberable. They have seen you once, they have remembered you. So how creatively? So here you have to be more creative. This is a creative problem. How creatively can you send your message multiple times to the same target audience? That is what it means by being rememberable. So one message said multiple times. I'm using the word multiple times because that's the essence of it. You should get irritated by how often you are saying about this particular message of yours. And rememberability. How, in what manner are you saying this? Are you boring or are you little exciting for the end customer, for the target audience? Put these three together over a long period of time, you are able to establish first to mind value for a certain size of people, and then you grow that. That is what it means to build a brand in a plain vanilla method, in a simplistic manner. This is how you build a brand. Now all these things, this is the end goal. The methods to this are many, but this is the end goal. Some people are able to do it very successfully, some people have a difficult time doing it. Some people, by design, are artists, they are able to do this well but not do very good at sales. Some people by default are very good at sales, but they're not as great as let's say brand builders or communicators or all those kind of things, or maybe creative in that sense. So that is what essentially it means to build a brand in 2026, or in fact this is how it has been for years, decades ago, and this is how it will be for decades to come. The tools will change, the methods will, the principles will remain the same. If we go forward, this is exactly how the entire journey of building a brand is. And I will walk you through one by one. So when you're starting the business, the first job that you have to do is get initial sales. At this time, your job is not so much of building the brand, building awareness, getting people to know you. All those things are for much later. When you are starting, this is your 0 to 1. Just focus on your product, customer, get the sales, get the ball rolling. Here you should not spend heavily on building the brand. Maybe this is a time when you're investing in personal brand and those things, but again, remember, you should not be doing personal brand and all those, keeping the for the business, that you can do it for yourself. At this point, your key focus is your product and your sales. Anything else is a distraction. Your product, customer feedback, product, customer feedback, product, customer feedback, basic sales, basic sales, again customer feedback. You keep incorporating that, keep doing this cycle, you'll have a good product that has a good basic sales coming in, and you will have confidence on, hey, I can scale this up. This is when we had only one book at ZebraLearn. One book, we used to keep doing it, then we came out with second book. When we had two books, we had some sort of confidence that, hey, we will want to do this for a very large number of books. But then we did not have confidence whether or not this works. Then we went on to 10 books, and at that point, when it started working for all 10 books, that is when we knew, hey, now let's spend time, effort, money on building the brand, building attention, getting more and more people awareness about what we do. And that is what it means to have that initial sales. Next, scale one sales channel. Don't do too much here. At this time, this is more of a sales lesson as compared to our entrepreneurship lesson, as compared to let's say brand building lesson. Scale one sales channel. For us, for ZebraLearn, our first channel was Facebook or Meta and D2C. So we just used to do this: landing page, Meta ads, landing page, purchases on the website, and just this cycle for about 1 year. We did not do Amazon. Amazon was much bigger for book sales. We did not do Flipkart. We did not do so many different channels that were available. Just one channel, scale one channel. We were doing approximately 20 lakhs in monthly sales when we started our Amazon channel, when we onboarded on Amazon. So this is how you scale one channel. What it gives you is, it gives you a lot of confidence. Even today, we have so much understanding on Meta in terms of what works and what does not for us. If had we done multiple channels back then, maybe our learning would have been very, very diluted as compared to what it is right now. So scale one channel over a consistent period of time. Once you have scaled one channel, then you can maybe look to open up one or two more channels. We will look at this going forward. At this point, you need to come up with this. You need to identify the message. What is that one messaging? What is it? Because you would have sold enough, you would know what works to sell your product, what works to make people aware about what you do. So you need to have a balanced approach of A, messaging, B, sales. Sometimes these two don't go hand in hand. Sometimes there can be a divergence and they will only connect going forward. For example, at ZebraLearn, when we want to sell books, let's say we can say, hey, buy this book. That is our sales communication. But from a brand communication, we always say visual is the learning. Visual is the learning going forward. And we truly believe this, that whether it's books, courses, classes, everything, visual is the way how people will learn going forward. One of the ways to do that is what we do at ZebraLearn. There can be 10 different ways. Someone can use tech, we use design. Someone can use experiences. But our messaging here is visual is the way forward. But when we are selling, we are saying, hey, this is the book, this is what you learn, and it's in a visual format, you'll enjoy it. So this is how you identify the messaging. From a messaging perspective, you should absolutely look at whether or not it appeals to people's emotions. Whether or not do people believe in it. If they don't believe in it, are you giving them a food for thought to consciously think more and more and more about it? But how is that message for them? Whether or not it's initiating a new thought, a new wire, a new thinking in them. So that's how you go about identifying the messaging. And it's a skill. You might not land up with the right message for 2-3 years as well after you have done this. And that's just the next step, how you have to crack your message. What is your message that you really believe in and your audience resonates with it as well, and you would want the world to know about you as well, that hey, we do this and this is how we are different, and you would want the whole world to know about it, that this is what we are and this is what we believe. So this is exactly what you have to identify. What is it that you would want really distant relatives of yours to know about you? What is it that you would want, let's say, the leadership of the country to know about you? What is it that you would want top business leaders across the country to know about you? That is this message. And then you build this message. Building this message is all that is in terms of building the brand. So when you go about this message, you need to back that message with data. You need to back that message with storytelling. Storytelling is what makes it memorable, consumable. Because if you go and tell, hey, 42% of learning that happens is visual first format, this is not going to mean anything to anyone. But if I tell you, hey, this is a book, are you not able to read a black and white book? But when we convert this into a visual first version and then you read it, are you able to adapt it better? You can learn how to, let's say, hire your first employee, or maybe how to manage your team better, how to keep them motivated. And this is the outcome that you'll be able to achieve, and it will also be engaging. You can also hear the book, you can also scan some QR codes, and imagine you are going out on a trip and you can read this book over that weekend. How much richer will you come back? These are things, and again, this is not the best format of storytelling, but this is a little more consumable means of that message. Imagine a play, a 2 minute play, a 5 minute play, a 20-minute play, which is all about visual books and visual learning. That is what you mean by storytelling. And again, the message can have different formats. Saying the same thing will have different ways to tell it, but at the core, your core message remains the same. So data, storytelling, message. Get facts here, get creative here, look at different angles here for the same message. Don't change the message. This is something that you need to know from a messaging perspective. If you get all these right, you have a very strong, or you have a brand message. And the good news is you can try multiple number of times. And because when you're trying, no one knows you. Who are you? There's only one sales channel, and that is anyways working. That is not dependent on your message or your communication. So you can try multiple things, and you can check what works with the customer or what works with the reader in our case. But at the same time, it should be something that you truly believe in. Don't start saying something because the market believes in it and you don't believe in it, or that is not something that you want to stand for. This is what you're standing for. Once you have these things, invest in visibility. Once you have these things, invest in visibility. Typically what happens is we start creating content, because content is how people typically nowadays start building brands. We start doing it at this phase unnecessarily, and that gets you some sales. That does get you some sales. But can you scale that? If you can scale that and you clearly come from that background, or you have the right expertise, that is your sales channel. That is not your brand messaging channel then. But you can't confuse your sales channel with a brand messaging channel. You will build up your brand over time over here. But here, if you are dependent on those channels to get you initial sales, and you don't see it as a sales channel, or you don't have a clear path of it being a sales channel, maybe you are giving yourself an unfair disadvantage, and maybe you're better off with simpler channels that are more directly sales, because here you are wanting sales. There are large people who are very famous, people who have personal brands, or large companies with established brands. They come out with a product and it never takes off the shelf. This is that case. Fame will not build your business without the product getting the right shape, getting the right feedback. So this is the time when you should build the product, and here you should start investing in the visibility. Here you should start investing in your whatever it is to get the impressions. The channel here are also many. You can start with offline, you can start with creating content, maybe you can start with paying in money to influencers, maybe you can start with packaging here, maybe you can change your packaging here from sales, and this will give you more visibility for your messaging. This is where you start. Repeat, repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. This is the core thing, how you build a brand. This is how you go that journey. This repeat and repeat and repeat so many times. How does it sound? It sounds awkward and quite funny in my head, but this is actually how you do it. Once you have a message and a channel, you repeat that till the time you can, and then a few more times, and then you start find new ways where you can tell the message, new formats in which you can tell the message, and you repeat and repeat. Next step from here is partnerships and growth. Now you can use this interchangeably. You can go here directly. Here, this is honestly changes business by business, changes offer by offer, industry by industry. But sometimes, for example, for books, we can go to so many authors, so many brands, and write books with them, partner with them, and these people will help. As they will distribute their books, they will also distribute our brand name. In your industry, who are the right partners? For example, Paperboat partner with Indigo. They help them build the Paperboat brand. Getting the right partnership will give you the right endorsement, will give you the right visibility, and will help you spread the message as well. So this is exactly what you mean here. Partnerships, a lot of growth for your business, because this all partnerships also gets you, typically also gets you sales. So this is the journey that you take to build your brand. Partnerships plays an important role here to help you save cost. Otherwise, you will have to do all this yourself, which works by the way as well. So there is absolutely no compulsion that you have to do this, but this is an ideal state that you should do. At the same time, when you are starting to scale your visibility and partnerships, there comes one more phase, which is where you, now that people know about you, a certain number of people know about you, your distributors, your distribution, sales channels, this needs a lot of ramping up, because till here you are largely focused on one or two channels, and these are channels with lower entry barriers. But these are channels with higher entry barriers: offline retail, modern. Starting to scale your visibility and partnerships, there comes one more phase, which is where you, now that people know about you, a certain number of people know about you, your distributors, your distribution, sales channels, this needs a lot of ramping up, because till here you are largely focused on one or two channels, and these are channels with lower entry barriers. But these are channels with higher entry barriers: offline retail, modern retail, channel space for bookstores. These are channels which have entry barriers, which have limitation of space, or more competitive nature of distribution. Here, what do you need to do? Because now people are getting to know you and you have done this for a long period of time, you come down here, increased point of sales, increased distribution. Because when you scale up, when you scale your impression counts here, from investing in visibility, when you come down here, which is you spend a percentage of your revenue. Typically here you will be losing money, but it will be more unstructured, losing money for the brand, because you are just starting to build it out. But here, spend percentage of revenue, let's say 10% of your top line here, you should absolutely build that distribution. Because if you are not well distributed as a business, if you don't have, let's say in books, let's say if you don't have offline stores or offline availability, if we don't have tie-ups with the right B2B partners, with the right brokers, if we are not onboarded on Amazon, Flipkart, all these different channels, if our D2C is not very fully equipped to handle everything, if book reviewers are not reviewing our books, if all those things are not in place, we are not onboarded nowadays on quick commerce, if all those things are not in place, it makes no sense to spend on brand building beyond this. You will get the early sales here, because you largely, your messaging will still be in control over here. When you are spending a percentage of revenue, for example, from ZebraLearn perspective, let's say we are spending 10% of our revenue in building the revenue, building the brand. What will happen over here? How will we go about it? Here, you have to be well distributed. This helps achieve a more stable state from a brand exercise perspective. You want to reach this stage where you are able to invest in your brand, and people are picking you off from the shelves, from the distribution channels, from the shelves, from retail counters, all these places. This is typically how large brands operate. Now, whether it be HUL, whether it be Starbucks, whether it be Apple, or even, let's say, relatively younger ones, this is how, where everyone wants to get to. When you spend a percentage of revenue, and this helps you, a, you are able to reinvest in your existing brand, b, you are able to grow your brand as well. So if you are able to do this, then you do this for next maybe 2 decades, 3 decades, and that is how you truly build iconic global brands that are relevant across geographies or maybe across categories. So this is the journey that you typically take to build a brand. When you mix steps, when you start building distribution before building messaging, people will not hear you out. When you start building messaging before you get the right product, right sales, it's all for waste, because you will get poor feedback and there will be no repeat or little repeat. If you are not able to identify the right message, you will never be able to scale this marketing effort or scale this brand messaging effort. If this messaging does not work, you will not get here. You will not even get all the right distribution and partnerships. Because your messaging is right, the distribution, partnerships, and increase in visibility, people start resonating with you. So that is typically the journey. In terms of journey, we have very quickly divided into a visual format. Here, why we have done this, it's pretty much the same journey, but it's really important to identify the mindset shifts. Every channel will have a mindset shift, and that is an extremely important activity for you. Why? Because if you don't have the right mindset shift at the right time, you will miss out on a lot of opportunity, lot of value. We are personally guilty of it a lot. We have been trying to do the old things that have worked for us in the past, going forward as well, whether, and not realizing that it's time to change our mindset, and maybe go to the next step of growing the business. So typically this is the early product phase: one channel, one offer, or one offer, one channel. Just focus on scaling this. Here you should just focus on getting the product right, getting focus on sales. Don't try to do too much. Just customer, you product feedback. Early stage businesses, this is how early stage businesses work. This is where you just focus, it's between you and the customer. A little bit after your first success, maybe it can be 2 months, maybe it can be 2 years, maybe it can be 5 years, you grow to one or two more channels. Again, you have not started working on your messaging, the same offer, but two or three more channels. You are trying out newer ways to sell the existing product. How you expand to one or two more channels, you de-risk sales. Here your sales is very dependent on one channel. What if this one channel struggles? Here with two or three channels, you're investing back in your existing channels, but also at the same time you are trying one or two more newer channels. Expand these new channels, de-risk sales, also diversify sales, because then that will give you that room for growth going forward. When you have achieved this, at this point, here we are doing the product market fit. Here we are working more on the product rather than the channel. Once we have this, we will have the product done. Here we are working on these newer channels, not so much on the product, because the channel is something that we're expanding. The product is established over here. So now when we are working on channels and stabilizing it, once this is done, this is done, here we start working on the messaging. Once we have 2-3 channels and the offer set, here is when we start messaging. This mindset shift is extremely important. Typically what happens is you will still be trying to grow these 2-3 channels and not realizing that it's time to spend, or it's time to grow the messaging bit as well. So this is where you start investing in the messaging side of things. Start messaging, start messaging. This is your mindset shift at this point. You will have to start with low quantum of overall messaging. This is how you'll start towards that brand building or awareness building activity. Now here you will find some sort of awareness. People will start to know about you because these 2-3 channels will give you more visibility. You will have some messaging based campaigns. This offer, plus you might have few more channels. These would be typically relatively lesser channels. You might want to expand your messaging to maybe one or two, from one to maybe two mediums or two channels. Don't do too much here again, but maybe with creating content you are also doing one or two brand campaigns, or maybe you are doing more brand campaigns than you were doing here. So this is how the phase 4 is more about early awareness, and this is late awareness. So early awareness to late awareness, this step, what you need to do is you need to expand distribution. As we said, if we get offline, get in front of people, and if you're offline, maybe get online, be available in all marketplaces, be available in all places where people shop for you, be available in multiple geographies, be available with multiple brokers, agents, B2B places, marketplaces, everything. Be available in as many places as possible. And good thing is people will entertain you, because now you have some success, and also you have messaging that has gone out to some sort of people over here, and you start scaling messaging over here. You start scaling, but this is when you actually scale the messaging, you scale the brand. This is the place where the brand actually grows. You might have few offers, you can start testing new and new products as well here, but in the same offer that you have, you can now have multiple channels. You can now have multiple messaging initiatives. Remember, this one to two multi is not number of messages, it is number of activities that you do to spread the message. Number of, because ultimately you want to stick to one message. If you keep changing your message, you're starting from scratch again and again. So this is the journey that takes you. If you reach here, this is where you can start spending on your a percentage of revenue on your brand. And this will get, because you're available in so many places, it will get you lift, it will get you that sales, and people will be happy, intermediaries will be happy, and because they are happy, they'll ask for more and more of your products and give it more visibility, and that just initiates a viral loop in terms of how you grow your brand. So this is exactly how you grow a brand in 2026. One message, multiple impressions, rememberability is the core. And if you can establish first to mind value, that is where all the value is. And the size of the brand can be different, and that is your opportunity. You can start small. A mistake that all of us make, you will typically start thinking and comparing yourself with Starbucks or these large Apple. You don't want to build that in 2 years. You can't. Maybe you can build a brand in your office, in your environment, in your area, in your state, in 2 years, in 6 months, in 5 years, whatever that time is. And that in itself is also very powerful. That in itself becomes a viable business in some industries. This is how you go about being memorable and being a brand, becoming a personal brand, or becoming a business brand or corporate brand in different places. And also, if you want to build on top of this, if you want to get in more and more detail, we also have a book on in our marketing channel. So with that, I will wrap up the session. It's been absolutely brilliant, when we prepare for this and when we talk, list down our experiences, it gives us so much thinking to do, it gives us so much learning to do. Super grateful for it. See you in the next video where we talk about such topics in further breakdown, in further detail.